Hi there, I'm Richard. Welcome to Burning Spears, and this is lamb biltong. Lamb biltong, you might be wondering what that's all about. Check out this video, I'll show you how I make it. It's amazing. It is so tender. Let me show you something. Just delicious. Hi there, I'm Richard. Welcome to Burning Spears, my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing quite an important cultural video. I believe it to be important because KwaZulu-Natal, the place of my birth, I was born in Durban, is a host to the largest Indian population outside of India itself. The majority of South African Indians, or a large portion, are Hindu or Hindi, and they don't eat beef because they revere the cow. So imagine being disappointed about not being able to eat biltong. I mean, life wouldn't be really worth living. So there is a way, and I've seen it a few times. I've never tasted it, but I'm going to make lamb biltong. So for a lot of people, might not make sense, but it's a red meat. I've seen chicken biltong. I haven't seen pork biltong yet, but chicken biltong is probably kicking the can a little bit too far down the road. But I believe that lamb is good. And I've done some R&D recently on it because I'd never eaten it. And it came out really good. There were a couple of nuances that need to be focused on. So stick around, watch this video. For those of you who like lamb and like biltong, this is a perfect marriage. It's great, it's easy, and it's a little bit more expensive, but showing you how to break down, butterfly the leg of lamb and keep the scraps for sausage, etc. is a cheaper way of doing it. Ideally, you'd want your butcher to do it. You'll see me struggle with deboning this leg of lamb. I'm not an expert butcher by any means. So let's get into the ingredients. I'm pretty much going to stick to my standard way with one or two little differences, which I'll get into during the course of the video. But coarse salt, my recipe, the one that I developed in the Cayman Islands, uses coarse salt. It's quick, it's easy. And vinegar, you can use any vinegar you wanted. In the Caymans, cider vinegar was cheap, but white vinegar is good. Brown or malt vinegar is good. Whatever you choose, whatever you fancy. Then, of course, black pepper, crucial, critical ingredient. And then coriander, crucial, critical ingredient for biltong in general. Now these two have antifungal properties. They keep pests off, flies, etc., etc. Plus the cure of the vinegar and the cure of the salt seal in the skin and make it distasteful to anything that wants to nosh on your biltong before you do. Worcestershire sauce. I'll probably say Worcester sauce because it's easier, and there's a place in South Africa called Worcester. We generally struggle with that pronunciation. Not traditional with biltong if you go far back, but certainly an ingredient that adds a lot of umami, a lot of flavor to biltong. I'm using this today because on my R&D batch, I did notice that the biltong's a little bit gamey, so I want to temper that just a little bit. And of course, add some extra sweetness and flavor. Then I've got the two legs of lamb. My R&D batch was 4 legs, but the butcher cut those up so that I didn't have to struggle. But we'll get into the butchery now. My editor will rush through this and make it a lot more easier to view. Okay, always in life and in general, pat your meat dry. This is a boning knife. Also, what's great for this particular job, which I don't actually possess, is one of those vegetable paring knives, those curved, sharp little buggers. Those are really good for getting around the bone and stuff to ensure that you pull as much meat as possible off. This will do. Then I've got just a butchery knife, a long big one, or if that is too blunt because it's a sort of commercial one, I've got something else. So let's get started. So the bone is close to the surface here, and there's the knee joint. So you want to get this out, you want to open it up, flap it open, scour out the bone as much as possible, and then we'll talk about breaking the rest down. I'll just get on with this. Okay, so that's the basic bit of deboning that you would do, pretty much similar for a deboned leg of lamb, which is great on the braai. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate all of the the different muscle groups, and start taking fat off. The reason you take fat off is because lamb fat goes rancid quicker than beef fat, so you don't have a lot of fat on lamb biltong. So I'm going to start separating these muscle groups, taking them apart so that I can get good shape. So this takes a bit of time. Of course, apart from removing the fat, you're going to want to remove a lot of the silver skin, stuff like that, which will make your biltong very tough and unpleasant. Okay, the results are out. Now, a few things to mention here. This lamb trim is amazing for your draaivors, boerewors, anything like that, or sausage in general. So that's not going to go to waste. Everyone always says you can save the bones for stock. I haven't got the shanks off because those are not really good biltong pieces. Then what I've done is I've tried to keep the muscle groups, I've separated them, try to keep them as whole as possible. Going to be some silver skin running through. You can't take all of it out because there'd be nothing left to make biltong. And also it's lamb, it's tender, it's fine like that. The only things I'd say is these sort of bits, like that's off of the shank. But anything with silver skin like that, where it's really small, you don't worry, that just goes straight into trim. Like also, would you really bother with breaking that down into bits? Those are too thin for lamb biltong. So I've done a fairly good job here. We'll get on to the cutting into hanging sizes in a second. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. Your lamb must be fresh. Don't use frozen lamb for biltong. The gaminess comes out too much. It's a bit too strong and unnecessary. I got these better than half price from the supermarket. £7 a kilo. Normally 18 to 25 a kilo for leg of lamb. Very expensive meat, and I know that back home in South Africa, certainly in the Eastern Cape, it's astronomical. It's a celebration dish, eating lamb these days, whereas it's so integral in South African culture. So without warbling on too much, from 2 legs of lamb, you should hopefully get a kilo per leg of lamb of usable meat for biltong. £7 per kilo, going to dry it to 50%, so that's £14 per kilo cost. When I got this done by my butcher, exactly like this, I paid them £25 per kilo. So massive saving. Doing it yourself, a little bit of time, really easy, and the results are beautiful. Just a bit of practice, but hell, it's always good to upskill, right? Ideally for me, that's a biltong piece, very thin over here. You can see it's translucent, so that's got to come off because that's just going to dry way too quick, be way too salty and unpleasant. So I'm just going to take thin edges off now. There are 2 methods of getting a desired thickness where you've got bits that are too thick. That one's too thick, really, for the lamb biltong. You want this to dry a bit quicker than beef because it's not beef. There's the one way which there's a couple of pitfalls that you've got to keep out for, is to basically thin it out, like let's call it the hinge method. I don't know what the butchery term is. You've basically now, like with beef stir fry, they do this a lot. You've basically now got a thinner piece of meat that's a bit more uniform. You've got to make sure that you cut properly so that the cut doesn't go too far or too shallow. And if you've got a little bit of a third leg there, you want to trim that off. Any folds when you're hanging biltong are susceptible to get molded. Now, okay, that's a little bit thin in the middle. That's not perfect, but I'm sure you get the idea. The other method you've seen done with chicken breasts so many times before, and this is the get rid of your frustration method. So basically, there we go, just like that. Right, the first stage of cure is the salting. Probably about half in weight of coarse salt. This is really coarse, which is important. And what we want to do here is we just want to get a good coating-ish of coarse salt. Now using coarse salt, of course, stops there from being over salting and makes it a quicker process, as you'll see. One of the learnings from the first R&D session I left it in the salt, the coarse salt, too long, and the thinner bits were really over salty. Lamb is a more tender meat, it's probably got a lot more moisture in it, a lot less hardy than beef. So salt is going to affect it differently. This time around, I'm going to literally leave it for 10 minutes, no longer. I think I pushed the boundaries a little bit because my thought process was, if the fat turns rancid quicker with lamb, that's why you cut it off. Be a little bit more cautious and put a bit longer of a salt cure on the lamb. But it's not necessary. I also did find that the rarer bits were way better. And that's how I prefer my biltong anyway. 10 minutes, then we're going to do the vinegar wash, and that's the basic cure done. Okay, now for the cure part. I'm just going to want to get most of the salt off here. I'm going to want to add more than enough vinegar to cover this. And I'm going to add 2/3 vinegar to 1/3 Worcester sauce. I'm going to eyeball it. Okay, so you want to ensure that you don't have meat sitting like that being sealed. So you want to move it around, ensure that there's at least been some contact with the liquid. Now this will start cooking the surface, changing the structure of the meat. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to slowly roast some whole coriander, grind it up in a rough mix, and grind up some black pepper. This is going to be like this for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If you wanted to push it, maybe 20, but I haven't done it often enough. I wouldn't leave it for longer than 15 minutes. Okay, off camera, I roasted some coriander, and I've got a nice amount of half shells on the grind, some fairly ground fresh black pepper, and not part of the original makeup, but I thought, KZN, let me add a little bit of spice. So this is entirely optional. So I'm going to go in for about half a cup of the coriander. Bit awkward this method, but it's all about eyeballing on this. So 50-50 mix there. Go with about a quarter cup, slightly less there. Happy with that blend. So you can see the colors change on the meat. That's exactly what you want. I'm just going to go get these all out and then spice them really quickly. It's a very quick process, and hang them. Remember to get into all of the nooks and crannies of the meat with the spice to stop any folds. So it's been in for 5 days, right? And on the thinner ones, there's no give. Now I like my biltong rare. For someone who doesn't, who likes dry biltong, you'd want to go a bit longer. You'd want to achieve this sort of result out of all of it. This stuff is so tender, and like I said, it's not gamey. It tastes beautiful, so the little bit of pink or the red in there is going to be just great. It's probably lost almost 50% of its weight. Different bits dried differently. Now a lot of videos will tell you to weigh and write it on the label and then weigh it afterwards at 50%. You don't need to bother. Just use common sense and you'll achieve great results. Now the part that I chomped on, just gorgeous. Still nice and rare. Probably a bit off-putting to some people and thought of lamb, but I promise you it's excellent. The sweetness from the Worcestershire sauce is great on this lamb. Possibly could be a little bit more salty, but if I was to dry it down more, it would be more salty. I'm going to get on to slicing it now. Please remember, I like my stuff rare. Okay, here is the dry stick. I wouldn't want to go any past that. You're just going to be wasting flavor then. Then we get the sort of medium. And then the more sort of wet style, which is my preference. Slightly lighter color, probably due to the piece of meat more than anything else. But you can see the real differences here. And yep, that's it. Cheers. So generally, my biltong is ready between 4 and 5 days. 4 days, the thin bits are sliceable, and you don't want to push them. Then the thick bits will be sort of more my style. 5 days is when most of the biltong would be ready. Some slightly drier, of course, if you've left it in. The fattiest bits I save for myself because they are the wettest, and that's my choice. I have got the 3 different types as you see. I already know the sort of taste profile. So the drier one, not tough, not like beef when it dries up. Deep flavor, higher salt levels than the other stuff. You could push it far further than that, but then it's going to start getting unpleasant, stringy, gamey. I wouldn't go further than that. Then the medium. Sweet, absolutely sweet, tender, gorgeous. Slightly less salty, but definitely sweeter. I suppose that's because the dry one is more salty. Wet one, super tender. If I could get that deep umami and this sweetness and softness, that would be perfect. Almost like that, but my preference, this stuff. So I hope that gave you some insight into a different biltong. I hope the non-beef eaters are now rejoicing, screaming off their rooftops that they have biltong that they can finally eat. And I will play with some flavors on this because this is really successful. I'm going to pack this up and give it to some people at the bar, see what they think. That's going to be the ultimate test. Store it in the fridge if you can. Eat it at room temperature is a must, and it'll last for ages. And please, if you could take the time to watch my original biltong video, which is my best performing biltong video incidentally, and if you wouldn't mind like and subscribe, especially if you enjoyed this. Let's get this video to over 100,000. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon. And without any further ado, that's it.